At the moment, when we're getting this editing form here, our users can type anything they like in this particular field here in the type of equipment that they're inquiring about. But you'll remember that we said that our application is going to be used to direct inquiries to experts, and they may be monitoring, the lens expert may be monitoring inquiries about lenses and then getting back to the photographer who's made the inquiry. So what we want to do is to restrict this somehow in some way to a range of values that we have specified. This may be really useful in a business for analysis of sales inquiries so that they can see which departments or sections are doing better than others. As I say, at the moment they can enter anything at all. So let's firstly go to a website which is called Wex Photographic, who have more than my money than they should. And you can see that there are classes of items that are usually used in photography, and we'll get some of those item types when we get to that bit of the code. Now in our Ionic docs we'll see that there is a select component. Now this select component is really useful. And what we can do is you can see that in this example here, we've got the Ion Select and the Ion Options. So we'll replace our text box component with one of these, and you'll see what happens. So if we go this, it shows up these particular items are the only ones that they can choose, which is really good. It's in a different example, but you can see the idea. So let's go to our own code and make this work for us. So we're in our detail HTML page, and this is the area of data that we're dealing with where we want to restrict what the user can enter to our selected range of items. So what we do is we change the opening tag to a select, and obviously the closing tag to a select. Now we no longer need to be of type text because we are going to specify what the items will be. So we'll get some code that I've already copied into my clipboard, and I will then show you the options. So I've pasted them in now. Let's just tidy up the look. I hate untidy code. Now we've got this option range still linked to the inquiry type, of course, because that's the model that we want to link to, but it's now an Ion Select, camera, lens, etc. are the only things that they can choose. So let's save it and go to a link here, and you see the down arrow. There's the only thing that they can choose as a range of types of equipment. Think of types as categories and so forth. So that's what we've got, and that's really extremely useful for restricting ranges of input. So this is working really well, and you can imagine a situation where the company wants to add more categories, more types into an application. That's easy enough for them to do, and that can be done dynamically or in the native HTML, which is here for the application. So that would be issued as a new version, more options to choose from. Now you'll see here at the moment that we have Ion Option Camera. Now if we go back to the docs for the options, the Ion Select and Options, you'll see that the text can be assigned also a value, which may be a number. So you might have 1 for female, but here they've said F for female and M for male. So the text that is displayed to the user may not be the same as the value that you work with when the item is selected, and you can refer back to that value and use it in arithmetic. You can use it to look up items in databases, all sorts of things that could happen with it. But in our particular case, we're going to have the text item that we are showing to the user to be the value of the object that's selected. So our code is set up in this way: our select, Ion Select, and then our Ion Options. And these are what you would call hard-coded values. These are set at design time when the application is created, and therefore restrict you in what you can do with the data. It's not going to be dynamic. So if we want to make our first step towards the data being dynamic, we can use a property in the detail.ts file, and where we would put that is anywhere above the constructor, and we're going to say that we're going to have a property called types, and that's going to be an array, and I've got the values on the clipboard, and those are the types that we're going to allow to be used in our code. Now it's easy for you to imagine that although we've hard-coded them still, this could easily just be types equals something we get from a database or something we get from a list, and therefore would be dynamic and easy for us to change in the external source where the something we get from is getting its information. So that's really easy. So in order for us to implement this, we'll save this first. Then we'll go to our detail.html page, and we can delete everything except the first option. And what we're going to use is, if you remember, we've used the ng-for to loop through a list of things before. Let type of types, which is the array we just created, and in here we'll just do string interpolation, not tripe, well it might be, type. So we've now got that. So let's just check this. Exactly the same as we had before, but our data is now being pulled from an external source. It's part of the same component in this page, but it is an external source, and you're starting to see where we can get things from outside of our application. So we've got some different things happening here, and you've been exposed now to a date type and how you can use a selector for that. We've got two text fields. We then got a selection item, a selection component, and we've got a number field. So you can see that we're dealing with different data types, and what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to centralize the way in which we deal with some of these data items in a process called refactoring. So that's what we'll do, and we'll refactor through the use of a service.